There's a motion on regarding the...
OSEG has for years used smoke devices for Ottawa Fury FC games and Ottawa Atletico games with prior approval by City Council and received no complaints. And whereas Ottawa Fire Services has been consulted on the smoke devices and believes these devices can be used safely, therefore be it resolved that the City of Ottawa grant an exemption to bylaw 2003-237 as amended to the Ottawa Sports Entertainment Group to allow for the use of smoke devices for Ottawa Rapid FC games starting April 27th, 2025 until December 31st, 2026 for home games and playoff games if required, and granting OSEG an exemption from Section 17 of the bylaw, which requires a permit application to be made 30 days in advance of the proposed use, subject to OSEG meeting all other permit requirements of the bylaw, including Section 18, to the satisfaction of the Fire Chief. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Menard. Councillor Plante.
Whereas 10,000 seniors in Ottawa do not have access to a primary care physician, and whereas OPH estimates in a 2023 report that up to 150,000 Ottawa residents did not have access to a regular primary care provider before the COVID-19 pandemic, and that number is likely now higher due to the impacts of COVID-19 pandemic, and whereas the Ontario College of Family Physicians has warned that as many of 318,000 Ottawa residents could be without a family doctor by 2026 if urgent action is not taken, whereas many other municipalities in Ontario have instituted physician recruitment and retention programs, and whereas all the municipalities in Eastern Ontario except the City of Ottawa are members of the Eastern Ontario Physician Recruitment Alliance. Therefore, be it resolved that strategic initiative staff be directed to undertake a scan of what measures are in place in other Ontario municipalities to help address the shortage of family doctors, to engage in discussions with the Eastern Ontario Physician Recruitment Alliance, healthcare and post-secondary employers, relevant professional associations, as well as other relevant city departments, and report back to Council by end of Q3 2025 with short and long-term recommendations for a physician recruitment and retainment strategy. Merci.
Merci à vous. Councillor Hill.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Whereas 370 stunt driving charges were laid last year in Ottawa, representing a 98% increase in stunt driving charges from 2019. And whereas stunt driving is a reckless crime that puts the driver, other road users, and members of the public at large in danger and disrupts our communities with noise violations in the middle of the night, which can be debilitating for seniors and children. And whereas vehicle thefts remain an active concern for Ottawa residents, with 1,705 vehicles stolen in 2024 and 309 reported incidents of vehicle thefts in the first quarter of 2025 alone. And whereas new technologies are available to police stunt racing, including identifying noise violations from exhaust modifications, and whereas the Ottawa Police Service and Ottawa Police Services Board continue to pursue the staff stabilization plan, are engaged with the Ontario Police College to ensure that all new recruits can meet their training requirements without any delay. And whereas Ottawa is an amazing community whose residents both need and deserve legislative protection strong enough to ensure that our streets are safe, therefore be it resolved that the Mayor write a letter to the Solicitor General asking to explore solutions to address rising vehicle crimes that may include but not be limited to any or all of the following proposals. Number one, new legislation to allow regional police to use sound detection technology that can accurately and effectively target illegal exhaust modifications. And number two, the strengthening of relevant legislation for vehicle theft crimes, especially for individuals with multiple offenses. And number three, the strengthening of the Highway Traffic Act for stunt racing, especially for individuals with multiple offenses. And number four, the introduction of an assigned vehicle identification number program modeled after the Alberta and Saskatchewan regimes to crack down on the sale of stolen vehicles within Ontario. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Hill. Councillor Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And thank you for seconding this. So whereas B'nai B'rith Canada is the country's oldest human rights organization and a key voice of Canada's Jewish community, and whereas B'nai B'rith Canada has raised concern about the increased frequency of the Nazi hooked cross, Hakenkreuz, and other Nazi symbols in our communities, whereas Ottawa's Jewish community has repeatedly seen this Nazi hooked cross, Hakenkreuz, and other Nazi symbols used to intimidate them. And whereas Bylaw and Regulatory Services has responsibility over the enforcement of the graffiti management bylaw to ensure that graffiti, including symbols and letters that deface property, are promptly removed. And whereas 18 countries, including Austria, Belarus, Brazil, the Czech Republic, France, Germany, Hungary, Israel, Poland, Romania, Russia, Ukraine, and others have banned the display of the Hakenkreuz and Nazi symbols in public. And whereas B'nai B'rith Canada is asking the federal government to enact legislation to ban the Hakenkreuz and other Nazi symbols, and whereas several Canadian municipalities, including Whitby, Pickering, and Durham, have already passed motions endorsing B'nai B'rith Canada's call to ban these symbols, whereas the province of Saskatchewan has endorsed B'nai B'rith Canada's call to ban these symbols, therefore be it resolved that Ottawa City Council endorse B'nai B'rith Canada's campaign to ban the Hakenkreuz, the German word for the hooked cross, and other Nazi symbols in Canada. And be it further resolved that Council directs the clerk to write the Prime Minister of Canada, the Federal Justice Minister, Ottawa area members of Parliament, and B'nai B'rith Canada, advising them of Council's support for the campaign. And be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution be provided to the Federation of Canadian Municipalities for FCM's consideration in their policy development. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Johnson. I'll just draw your attention to the notice of intent from the Light Rail Regulatory Monitor and Compliance Officer to submit the annual compliance report to the April 10th meeting of the Transit Committee. Motion to introduce bylaws, Councillor Curry.
That the bylaws listed on the agenda under motion to introduce bylaws, 3 readings, be read and passed.
Is that carried? Confirmation bylaw, Councillor Curry.
That the following bylaw be read and passed to confirm the proceedings of the council meeting of March 26, 2025.
Is that carried? Inquiries. Councillor Brockington.
Yes, Mayor, thank you. On March 16th, 2025, a flash thaw and steady rain resulted in large volumes of surface water that caused flooding across the city. In Carlington, water from the western sections of the farm overwhelmed a culvert on Kingston Avenue, submerging the road and penetrating several homes on Kingston, Vale, and Trenton, in addition to flooding the outdoor parking lot of the southern tower of the Fisher Estates and Fisher Road, which emergency services eventually closed. There are a number of questions. 1, what is Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada's legal responsibility with respect to containing surface water on its property to ensure water does not travel from its property onto abutting private properties and municipal roads? 2, is the current culvert immediately east of 1178 Kingston Avenue sufficient in size to handle expected freshet volumes? And will the city confirm it is both in good condition and free of any obstructions? 3, during the public consultation engagement phase of the zoning bylaw amendment application for 9 homes on the south side of Kingston Avenue, abutting the farm, the city planner, replying to community concerns about the capacity of the culvert, stated that the applicant had submitted a report titled Servicing Brief and Stormwater Management Report, unquote, which deals with the concerns you have outlined regarding water runoff. The city engineer will review and report and ensure that the post-development flows are the same or better than the pre-development flows, end of quote. Given this commitment, what assessments following the construction of the 9 homes on Kingston, which abut the current culvert, were undertaken by the city to ensure water flow was not negatively impacted? And last question, are there any other actions the city can take to mitigate future occurrences of flooding in this specific area? Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Brockington. Are there any other inquiries? Motion to adjourn, Councillor Curry.
That the proceedings of City Council meeting 26th of March 2025 be adjourned.
Is that carried? Thank you, everyone. Merci.
Good afternoon. Bonjour à tous. My name is Kendra Titley and I will be today's moderator. Je m'appelle Kendra Titley et je serai l'animatrice de ce point de presse. I will now invite each agency in reverse alphabetical order to ask their questions. You may ask one question with a follow-up. Par ordre alphabétique inverse, j'invite maintenant chaque organisme à poser une question et une question de suivi. We'll start with Frédéric Pepin, Radio-Canada.
Frédéric Pépin from Radio-Canada. Hello, everyone. My first question is for Mr. Gaultier. We'll start with you, if you don't mind. In today's motion, there's nothing that states that you're going to analyze other alternatives to salt, sand, for example. Why? Has this already been analyzed by you? Is this something that the team might want to do to analyze other substances that could be used? Well, we already have a management plan in terms of the use of salt, and within that management plan, we're looking at alternative solutions. We also use sand when the conditions require it. The goal of the motion really is to provide more information to residents and to businesses as to how we manage the use of salt. We have to strike a balance between public safety and the impact on the environment. But the management plan, we've had them for decades now. This isn't something new. We've always managed our use of salt, but we have to make sure that we have enough information and we provide that information to the population.
In English too.
In English?
Yeah.
Sure. So we already have a salt management plan, and as part of that salt management plan, we're always looking at how do we minimize and reduce the amount of salt that we're using. We're also looking at, are there different alternatives that are available? And the intent is always to balance public safety from environmental impacts. And I think one of the intents of the motion is, how do we provide more information that's readily available to the public related to how we manage salt currently?
Je veux vous entendre, Monsieur le maire, là-dessus aussi.
Now, Mayor, could you speak to this issue as well? In January, when the reports were put forward in the committee, the Garderie de l'Air group had stated there was far too much salt getting into the environment. Many people are worried about this. It's dangerous for the environment. Now, today's motion, do you think it goes far enough to protect Ottawa residents? Answer, I think it does. It's not easy. There are always priorities. Our priority is the environment and people's safety as well. It's important to look at all options. And I'm pleased to hear the results of the research done by the team and by city staff. So if it is possible to change our plan, I'm prepared to listen to the options. But as my colleague has just said, it's important to communicate with Ottawa residents about what we're doing now to protect the environment and also to tell them that we have to strike a balance between public safety, resident safety, and also protecting the environment. So I'm looking forward to hearing the results and looking at solutions if there are alternative solutions that exist.
We'll go to Sarah McFarland, Ottawa Compass.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm just going to record also because apparently multimedia is a thing now in journalism.
I heard that.
So I hear. So it's been a busy couple of weeks. We've had some developments on the federal level, and you met with our new Prime Minister, who has also announced that he will be running here in Ottawa. So I just wanted to know, Mr. Mayor, what issues and priorities are you hoping will be top of mind for local candidates? What are you looking to hear about on the campaign trail?
First of all, I'll mention that I've had a number of conversations with the mayor of Gatineau, and I think in the next week or so we'll be communicating a shared vision for the National Capital Region with regard to the election campaign and what our priorities are. Obviously, Gatineau will have its own unique priorities, and we'll have our own unique priorities as well. But I think there are a number of clear priorities that we have for federal candidates in the Ottawa area, and that would include support for public transit. It would include a resolution of the concerns that have been raised around payments in lieu of taxes, the fact that the federal government has continued to reduce its payments to the city of Ottawa over the years. So we need our fair share on that. And I'm going to continue to press for that and fight for our fair share going forward. And as well, we need some action on downtown Ottawa and the fact that the federal government is talking about reducing its footprint in the downtown core by as much as 50%. The fact that fewer people are coming downtown every day because of decisions of the federal government. And so therefore, we need to work together on a plan for downtown Ottawa, and they need to support that plan. They're the major employer and the major landowner in downtown Ottawa. So if they're going to make big changes, they're going to have an impact on our local economy. We need to work together on the solution.
Okay, absolutely. And then just to follow up, today council approved a by-election in Osgood Ward, which is following last month's provincial election. And then now we have a federal one coming, and it's only March. So it's a busy start to the year. Are you concerned that there are projects, initiatives, Ottawa-based issues that could be lost or overlooked in all of the campaigns and kind of chaos that's been happening?
I think the work continues to get done. I would say as well that, in a democracy, and elections are a good thing. Never a bad time to have an election, and never a bad time for issues to get discussed and for priorities to be advanced. And so I'm excited about the fact that no matter what, we're going to be working with a new government, and we'll be having a new councillor in Osgood Ward. And the people will have an opportunity to talk about the issues and talk about their priorities. And so coming out of both of those campaigns, the people of Osgood will have a new representative locally, and we'll have a new government federally that I'm looking forward to working with on Ottawa's priorities.
Thank you.
Thank you. Nous allons maintenant à Charles-Antoine Gagnon, Le Droit.
Le Droit newspaper. Charles-Antoine Gagnon.
Bonjour.
Hello. Hello.
Councillor
Hill talked about issues with noise and speeding traffic. You've been asked to send a letter to the Solicitor General. Will you write that letter? Well, I understand that it's a priority for the residents of Barrhaven, Kanata, Orleans, and the surrounding areas. I understand that it's a priority for Councillor Hill, and I'm quite prepared to work with the provincial government to find solutions. It's clear that it's a real significant problem. It's a difficult issue, but I know that there are residents who have had their cars damaged and who are subjected to noise day in, day out. So it's important to deal with that issue, I think, and to find solutions. It's not only up to the municipal government to do something. There have to be solutions at other levels, at the provincial level, for example. So I'm quite prepared to work with the provincial government to find solutions to this issue.
Merci.
Thank you.
We'll now go to Arthur White-Crummy, CBC Ottawa.
Hi there. I think that my first question will be for Ms. Ferrer. I wanted to ask about this review of the anti-racism strategy, because it seemed like the motion that was withdrawn today was predicated on the fact that there will be some changes that might create a mismatch of some kind. I'm just wondering, what will you be looking to do in that review? Will it specifically kind of approach the definition of racism or colonialism? And is there any chance that it could potentially remove that reference to white people? Because that seemed to be the subject of some of this debate.
Thanks, Arthur, for the question. As part of our regular review process, we're undertaking a review of the definition of racism. That's part of our embedded within our anti-racism strategy. And we're doing that to bring more clear language to the definition and further explain that racism is really about a system. It's about a system that encompasses both individual, institutional, structural level actions. And it's not just about white people, for instance, but it is important to name race or racial groups in any definition. And underline that the construct of race is about the hierarchy that is designed to hold and maintain a predominant group. And so we're going to be looking at clarifying that definition, making it more clear language. We'll still have certain terms that make sense, and it'll be built with the latest academic and research input for that.
Okay, and this is a completely separate question for the mayor. I'm wondering how you feel about the fact that council has finally put the ferry road debate to rest. I think this proved to be, unexpectedly divisive, came back to council several times. What do you think about that being done? And what do you think about the compromise solution that council arrived at today?
I was hoping that, we might have a couple more meetings about it, but it got wrapped up today. Look, I think anytime you have a situation where there's going to be a 13-12 vote and where the councillor in the affected area is in the 12 rather than the 13, or something like that, it's not the ideal outcome. So it took some time. But I'm glad that we took the time to find a solution where there was consensus around the table, where we were able to move forward with the purchase of this land and protect it for environmental reasons going forward, and where it was, part of it was a unanimous vote, part of it was, I think, 19-5. So we didn't end up in a situation where council was divided over this issue, and that might have been where we would have landed on a previous vote, even if the outcome had been similar. So I think that's a hallmark of this term of council, frankly, that we've been working effectively together in most cases to find solutions and to achieve consensus. We don't always agree 100%, but we put in the extra work to make sure that we don't have a lot of division around the table on important decisions. So we took the extra time required, and I think it was a good outcome.
Thank you. Nous avons une autre question de Radio-Canada.
Radio-Canada has another question, just to follow up. Mayor, shared vision. Could you give me some details about that? What is it? Will you be making Monomarque Bissonnette? You mentioned that in English. What will you be proposing, and what's the context here, the background? Answer. Well, I've often talked I talk very often to the mayoress. We have common priorities for the National Capital Region, including the downtowns of our two cities, and also the payments made by the federal government. We call it PILS. It's basically taxes paid by the federal government, and also other priorities like public transit. During the election campaign, I'll be working with the mayoress to develop a platform for the National Capital Region. And next week, we will have an announcement to make. We'll be announcing our common priorities together. And after that, Ottawa has its own priorities. Gatineau has its priorities as well, that we can move forward separately. But there are many common priorities. There's a lot of overlap. So I'm very pleased to work with the mayoress to move forward Ottawa's and Gatineau's priorities. with a view to reaching the candidates of all the political parties running in this election.
This concludes today's media availability. Ceci conclut le point de presse d'aujourd'hui.
Merci.